And now, our feature program.
The dazzling new California Speedway, site of the final PPG Cup race of the season, seems an appropriate place for a review of the year just finished. Welcome to Rear View Mirror, a retrospective of the 1997 PPG Kart World Series. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. It seems like only yesterday our scene was the Metro-Dade Motorsports Complex in Homestead, Florida, as we awaited the start of the first race of the 97 season, the Miami Grand Prix. Well, that was 17 races ago, and in those 17 races we saw terrific competition, some of the closest grids in history, 3 brand new race winners, the youngest winner in series history, and the closest finish in the history of IndyCars here in North America. In the next 60 minutes, we'll take a look at what we think were the highlights of the 1997 season and use those key moments as a jumping-off point to talk with some of the personalities who made it such a great year of racing. We'll also talk about the equipment that carried us to the end of the year and back-to-back champions for the defending team titleists from Target Chip Ganassi Racing. It's all ahead in the next 60 minutes, and joining me is our regular ESPN commentary team. Let's hear from them now, beginning with my booth colleague, former series champion, Danny Sullivan.
Well, Bob, in my segment, we're going to talk about the tire war that took place between Goodyear and Firestone, and it was a great battle all season long. Then we're going to go over and visit with Team Rahal. We're going to talk to one of the oldest drivers in the series, Bobby Rahal, and his teammate Brian Herta on how they felt that their season went. And then we're going to go visit with Scott Pruitt. Now, remember, he was the winner down under in Australia. We're going to find out how he felt that his season ended up. Gary?
Well, Danny, I'm going to be involved in a couple of roundtable segments that I think that our viewers will enjoy. The first one involving Roger Penske and his team, drivers Paul Tracy and Al Unser Jr., reflecting on the real roller coaster ride that they've had in 1997. And then, of course, we're going to be talking with Chip Ganassi and his World Championship racing team for not 1 but 2 consecutive years, Jimmy Vasser from a year ago, and the now reigning new champion, Alex Zanardi. Think you'll enjoy it. Jan?
Gary, the Newman Haas racing team had highs and lows for 1997. Of course, the highs were Michael Andretti winning the first race of the year. We'll talk to him about it, as well as his teammate Christian Fittipaldi, who had that grinding crash in Australia. Now there was a newly crowned Rookie of the Year, Patrick Carpentier. We'll talk to him as well. And don't forget, we always like to include some technical tidbits on engines and chassis.
The season began on the oval at Homestead, Florida, and it began in storybook fashion for Michael Andretti and Newman Haas Racing. Andretti's come-from-behind win vindicated Carl Haas's decision to back the all-new Swift chassis and provided a proud moment for Papa Mario and the entire Newman Haas operation. Of course, all this was old hat for Michael. He did the same for the Reynard chassis in its very first race back in 1994. Here's Jan Beekes.
Well, Bob, it certainly was a storybook start to the season for Newman Haas Racing. Michael Andretti joins us along with Christian Fittipaldi. And for you, Michael, that first race, I know you tested well, but did you really think you had a shot to win it?
Yeah, I did actually. I thought we did. The car just felt very good. But then we did struggle for a little bit, and then morning of the race, we made a change in the morning warm-up, and the car felt very good. So from then on, I felt very confident about it. But you know, it was just a great win for the whole team. They put such an effort in, and I felt happier for everybody involved there than I did myself at that point because they put in such an effort.
I know you guys have put a lot of effort into testing, and Christian, part of testing, unfortunately, is under all kinds of conditions, and in Australia, you had the worst of all conditions to test that car with a big accident. Were you pleased with how the car held up?
Well, in a way, yes, of course. I think if the car hadn't held up very well like the way it did, maybe I wouldn't be speaking to you guys right now, and obviously completely different from Mike. My season was like very hard starting because in Miami I lasted about 20 laps, and then I went to the second race in Surfers. I lasted 3/4 of a lap, and then I was watching all the races back home. But I think that's the way it went, and obviously I took it in a way that someone had to eventually teach me a lesson. I was happy to be back in the car in Portland again.
You were very happy because you qualified third, finished fourth in Portland. How can you run so quick after being away for so long?
I think I'm going to break my leg again because when I was on crutches, we seem to be going better than lately.
Let's talk about lately, Michael. You had a very nice string in the middle of the season, 3 second-place finishes, but then it tapered off. But it was the same time that Firestone really became dominant. How much was tires and how much chassis?
I would say most of it was tires. The chassis, we were learning throughout. The chassis was not right yet on the permanent road circuits, but we had improved it. But unfortunately, Firestone took a jump as well, and so it made it a little tougher for us. So it was a frustrating stint there in the middle of the season for sure. And there were some races we still could have won, believe it or not, but we just had bad luck in the races, you know, and Christian was in the same position. It just seemed like everything would go against us. But, you know, the good thing is that we were fairly competitive, even though, you know, we didn't have the best combination.
Let's talk about 1998. You expect the Swift to be much different, Michael?
It's not going to be a whole lot different, but it's going to definitely be improved because there are some areas that we figure that are weak that you really couldn't fix. You had to do a total fix on it, and so we feel pretty good about the car next year. I think it should be even more competitive.
Both you guys set for 98?
I'm set. Yeah, we'll be here. We'll be back. This is like home for me. I've been here so many years, and there's been Andretti and an Andretti with this team ever since it's been formed. So I'm glad to say that I'm going to be back again.
Okay, more Swifts for 1998. They're back with the team, so more to look forward to in 1998. Danny?
I'm standing here with Scott Pruitt, who's been with Patrick Racing now for 4 seasons, going to be there for a while longer.
Right.
Scott, your win in Australia, tell us about that.
Wow, it was awesome. You know, one, I don't know what it is about there. I love going down there and the people just really open their arms and accepting me down there. And second, the fact that I was down there on my honeymoon made it all that much more enjoyable. We did all these things and came through and won the race.
Well, now that was fantastic. Well, what about your overall 97 season? How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel that we certainly didn't produce the results that we were capable of. You know, we had some poles, we had a win, we had some start from the front row a number of times, and just had some bad luck, just some strange things, especially as the season was winding up in Vancouver, getting together with Fernandez and Laguna, getting together with Ribeiro. Just some stupid things. It takes racing luck, and unfortunately we didn't have quite as much as we would have liked.
Well, we wish you luck for 1998 and hope you have the season that you want.
Thank you.
Here's a look at the final rookie standings for 1997. Despite missing several races, Patrick Carpentier is the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year. Race number 4 of the 1997 PPG Kart World Series season at Nazareth, Pennsylvania brought victory to Paul Tracy and the end to an agonizing drought for the sport's winningest team, Penske Racing. Tracy then added a lucky win when Bobby Rahal ran out of fuel 1 lap from the finish in Rio de Janeiro for his 2nd in a row. He then made it 3 straight with a measured drive to the win at the all-new Gateway International Raceway in Illinois. Here's Gary Gerould.
But with the Roger Penske Racing team now, Roger, of course, the man who calls the shots for the team with his drivers, Al Unser Jr. and Paul Tracy. And Paul, we've just seen the video of the 3 consecutive wins early in the season that really set a tone for you and brought a rejuvenated team, I think, together. Then, of course, you ran into some tough luck late in the season. I'm sure you wish you could kind of balance some of that good luck that led to the 3 victories with the tough luck that knocked you out on the first lap of so many events late in the year.
It's been tough to swallow, but you know, starting the year out, the team was really charged up. We had a pretty extensive testing over the winter, so everybody was key to try to get a win in the columns in 97, and we were able to pull that off at Nazareth, and that led us on to 3 consecutive victories, which is what the team needed to get charged back up and I guess maybe deal with some of this hard time right now. You know, the crew is still very up. We've got a lot of testing on the plate going into 98, so we've got a lot of changes coming and putting us in the right direction.
Did you ever feel, I mean, did you get discouraged? Did it kind of drag you down at any point in the season?
Well, I think you always do at the time when it happens, but you got to look to the next weekend and look at where your mistakes were and look at where things that happened during the weekend that were positives, and focus on positives and work towards the next weekend and the next race and the next year. We're focusing now on next year.
Now, with more than 30 wins in your career, but it's been a couple of seasons since you've been able to experience that elation, how has that been for you to deal with? Has that dragged you down at any time?
Well, it has gotten frustrating, sure. I mean, I can't say that it hasn't, but you know, there has been real reasons why I haven't been able to go into the win column, and most of those reasons are out of my control. And so, you know, it's just, that's the way racing goes. You know, Dad's always told me, when you're hot, when you're not, you're not. And last couple of years, we've been struggling to get the burner going.
We talked about the wins that Al has had in his career. Roger Penske, you've had so many victories in your great career in this sport. Has it ever been tougher to win than it is right now in kart?
I think the competition is at the highest level I've ever seen it in this, call it IndyCar racing, and we've been in this sport now for almost 30 years, so we've seen it when you bought a car for $12,000 and now it costs you $500,000 to buy, and so a lot of things have happened, and the competition has certainly gone up. You know, we have had 3 races. We start out the season hot, but I think we got to put it into perspective. You know, there's pressure on Al, there's pressure on certainly Paul for us to, be able to produce victories. But with the competitive nature, of the racing, we've got 2 tire companies, we've got 3 or 4 different chassis, so there's lots of different combinations. And I can say this for both of our drivers, we haven't given them the best car we could give them. And certainly in 96 and 97, I think our car was well suited as it was. Even in 1996, we had a couple of races there that we should have won that we didn't, but everybody can say that. We didn't win them, but we did win 3 in 1997. And I think that if you look at the history right now, there hasn't been a Goodyear car win a road race, and yet we were able to be very competitive on the oval. So, and that's where we've really been struggling. And I think at the end of the day, we've just got to get our car better on the short tracks. When I talk about short tracks, meaning the street circuits, and then also the competitive circuits like Mid-Ohio and Elkhart Lake. And certainly the test program that we have going into next year, we're going to try to develop a car that will be a front runner. Now, again, there's a lot of good competition, as you said earlier. It is the toughest I've ever seen it. When you look at the grids, whether it's on an oval, whether it's on a road course, 2 or 3 tenths can take you from 15th and make you 6th or 7th. And track position is key.
Yeah. And I think I can speak for everybody who's involved in the sport. There is no team that will work harder than the Penske team at trying to get back up to achieve the level of success that I guess all of us have become accustomed to over the years. We wish you all the very best in '98. Thanks for joining us.
Bobby Rahal, driver extraordinaire and now team owner, which you've been doing for a while. That's 2 very tough hats to wear. Listen, you were very close in Brazil. Your thoughts on that?
A heartbreaker, naturally, to control a race like that and then to not be able to finish it off was very disappointing. Although I must say, the disappointment was softened to a large degree by the fact that we did control the race. And as you know, any race car driver, you don't get many opportunities to control a race in your career, and it was just going beautifully. We knew what the situation was, and we just needed a break. We needed a yellow, and it didn't come, and unfortunately we paid the price for that strategy, but it was at least nice to run up front.
Well, now the one question, you're kind of the senior citizen, if you like, of kart racing at the moment. Any plans to stop or any plans just to keep going for X number of years?
I haven't really put a time. I mean, we're definitely going to drive next year, but I haven't put a real, haven't really put a time limit or, I mean, as you say, I'm an owner too, so there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of obligation. Also, this is going to be a younger man's sport. It's kind of fun as the old man to go out and rub wheels with guys half your age, but certainly next year we'll be there. After that, I really haven't given it too much thought.
Well, good luck in '98, and thanks.
Thanks, Danny.
Bobby Rahal and his countrymen won the Nations Cup in 1997, while Brazil, Canada, and England produced first-time winners. A look at the key moments of the 1997 kart season would not be complete without first-time winners. Greg Moore subdued the series' winningest driver, Michael Andretti, for his first career victory on the Milwaukee Mile. On a drying track at Portland, Oregon, Mark Blundell outleaned Gilles de Ferran and Raoul Boisel to take his first career win in the closest three-way finish in IndyCar history. And on the streets of Vancouver, a quick pit stop allowed Mauricio Gugelmin to outduel Jimmy Vasser and take his career first. Well, of course, nothing announced that a driver has arrived in the PPG Kart World Series like a victory, and I have three first-time winners this season with me. From my left, Greg Moore, Mauricio Gugelmin, and his teammate, Mark Blundell. Mark, let me start with you. Your results this year were always in the 8 to 12 zone before all of a sudden at Portland you break through for the victory and follow with another one later on at Toronto. What is it that allows or perhaps makes a driver come through to win?
Actually, Bob, I think we started to improve at Milwaukee. We were definitely a lot faster there and more productive throughout the whole race weekend. And Detroit, for sure, we were very quick as well, and very unfortunate as well at that point. But I think that the chemistry with me and my side of the team wasn't quite together yet. We didn't carry over from last year with any chemistry, and we went into the new season. It still wasn't quite right, and we sensed it. We made some internal changes, and from those changes, we've been very good since. But you know, it takes a long while to get that right.
That first win was also the closest three-way finish in IndyCar history. What are your memories of that race?
I think actually probably one memory is actually just seeing Gilles start to raise his hand and not realise that it didn't really win the race. But you know, it was a great race. I mean, fantastic one. I think really good for everybody to watch as well on TV and at the circuit, changing conditions, and to come through on the last corner of the last lap and just pinch the win was very satisfying.
Now, for your teammate to come through and win first among the two drivers on a team, what kind of pressure did that put on you, Mo?
Of course, that puts a lot of pressure because that's your direct competition. Everybody looks, well, those cars should be the same. One guy is winning, the other one is not winning. What's the problem? That's what comes to people's mind. But we've been running very well from the beginning of the year. And a lot of races, we've been close. As Mark said, at Detroit, we kind of handled that to Greg, but that's one of those deals that we made a decision that was tight on field, and we're just waiting for that to happen. Came first to Mark, but we've been running competitive really well. I mean, both cars well through the year, and that's the way it goes. You know, it took a bit longer for me, but I finally got in Vancouver.
First team to come through and win with both drivers on its strength this year. The PacWest team has made enormous strides in the last year. What is the key element in the equation that has made PacWest so strong to allow you guys to pick up victories this year?
Well, there isn't one single thing. I've been involved with PacWest a lot longer than Mark, and wasn't this year. The whole planning started way before, 2-3 years ago, and it just takes time. In this kind of competition, you don't buy success, you have to earn it. And you put a bunch of people together and you have to wait until that chemistry really works and everybody starts to kind of read your mind. That's the stage you want to get. When everybody's reading each other's mind, that's when everything gets well and runs together and you start to have success.
And you guys are set with brand new contracts, and I assume you'll have the same lineup for 1998?
Yeah, we're all ready to go. Unfortunately, Mark took all the money, so I'm just...
I just got the scratchings. Mo took it before I got there.
But we're looking forward for the next 2 years.
All right, congratulations on a great season. And you, my man, now the youngest winner in series history. Did that put any pressure on you, thinking about getting that first win and beating Al Unser Jr.'s old record?
It didn't. I think last year I was probably thinking about it more, but then this year I just wanted to finally get the first one. I didn't care when it was, and you know, I think the press probably made more of a big deal. Oh, you know, there's 2 races to go, 1 more to go, and then then I finally did it. And once I finally did it, it was a dream come true. I mean, it was 12 years in the making to finally get there.
And then pick up the next one right away under that curious situation with these two guys in Detroit. First Mo and then Mark running out of fuel with just a couple of corners to go.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable, really. We went to Detroit thinking that, well, if we can be in the top 5, it'd be a good result for us. And my guys gave me great pit stops all weekend, and we came out behind Mark and Maurizio, and we took the white flag, and I'd resigned myself to third. I thought, wow, these guys, they did a great job conserving fuel. We didn't think that they could make it, and then sure enough, Mo ran out in the back straightaway, and I thought, wow, that's pretty good. And then Mark ran out in the last corner. I just couldn't believe it. It was just, it's one of those things where I had a little bit more time to savor that one because we had 2 weeks in between that and Portland.
Great victory for you and the Players Forsyth team. Rumors that might be a 2-car team next year. What's the story?
I hear rumors, and I've heard yes, I've heard no. So I mean, I think right now what we've got to do is just worry about worry about next year. We're trying to win the championship for me, and then if I have a teammate, well, he can finish second.
Well, congratulations to all of you and many victories in the future.
Bob, one of the stories early in the season was that of the Lola chassis. Many teams even jumping ship before the very first race. Others, like this team and Richie Hearn, decided to persevere to find what might be the problem with the chassis. Well, that remedy never really came for Lola. Now, for both Swift and Penske, they certainly had moments of brilliance, but the chassis to have for 1997, without any doubt, of course, is the Reynard chassis. Now, engines were much closer. Ford made huge developments over the winter, winning the first race. Mercedes won then a string of races, both on fuel economy and horsepower. So it looked like the 1996 champion Honda was falling behind. But before the end of the season, Honda closed that gap, and it was a great finish with a lot of parity.
Here are the numbers. With 9 victories from 4 drivers, Mercedes-Benz picked up its first open-wheel championship since the Formula One world title back in 1955. Another key element of the 97 kart season was the rise of a trio of talented rookies. From Canada, Patrick Carpentier, the 96 Toyota Atlantic champion, led strongly at Gateway for Tony Bettenhausen's team. From Scotland, Dario Franchitti parlayed his street racing experience as a member of the Mercedes-Benz touring car team into a pole on the streets of Toronto, driving for Carl Hogan. And from Brazil, Walter Salles, while driving for the modestly budgeted Davis Racing team, still was a factor in the rookie championship right down to the final race of the year. Here's Jan.
With a large emphasis always placed on the overall Drivers' Championship, there's also a large focus on Rookie of the Year. And capturing the Rookie of the Year championship for 1997 is Patrick Carpentier. First of all, congratulations, Patrick. For you, what does this really mean now to be on the same list as other Rookies of the Year, Nigel Mansell, Jacques Villeneuve? I mean, that's really got to be a thrill.
Yeah, it is a thrill. It means a lot to me, especially how competitive the kart series is. And we've had good race this year, and it was good for us, so I'm really happy about it.
Are you surprised how fast you came up to speed in your very first race? You qualified and finished in the top 10. I mean, that had to be a thrill as well.
Yeah, that was good. We had a good season on oval circuits. It was really good. The first race was good, and St. Louis, of course, was really good too. So I was really happy. The team gave me a really good car, and a car that lasts to the end of the race, so it was important for the Rookie Championship.
Now, St. Louis, you say that was a great race, but it was also a heartbreaker. You almost won that race, had to slow down because of fuel. How tough was that, thinking you had a chance to win that first race?
It was pretty tough because I argued with Tony for about 5 laps, and he kept telling me to slow down, and I didn't want to slow down because he said I was going to run out of fuel. But when we finished, we actually only had 1/8 of a gallon of fuel, so we didn't even have enough to make another lap. So it was good. I was happy about second. You know, a podium in a kart series is really precious, and finish second was good, so I was still very happy.
Now, you talked about learning lessons. Being a rookie is all about learning lessons. What is the biggest thing you think you've learned in 97?
How competitive the kart series was. It's really competitive. And you got to work hard, and you got to learn a lot. I had to learn a lot this year. And the difference between the last year and this year is last year in Atlantic, when the good guys are there, they leave the next season. Here, the good guys stay, and the ones that are not so good leave, so it's a really tough series, so I've learned about that.
What about riding mountain bikes?
Yeah, yeah, I've learned not to ride them, but maybe I will still in the future.
Now, speaking of the future, you are billed to be a star of the future. Where do you expect kart and just the overall championship and the international scope to take you in the years to come?
Yeah, I hope that we'll be competitive enough on the road and street circuits in the coming season to be able to fight for the championship. And I think it should be good now that I've learned a lot more this season. I'll begin the winter testing with more knowledge, and so it may be better. So if it's good on the street circuits, it's already really good on the ovals, so we should have a good chance.
All right, well, thanks for talking with us, and of course, keep your eye on him in 1998. Danny?
We entered our second season of Goodyear versus Firestone. Now, the amazing thing is, over the season, these tire manufacturers do a tremendous amount of testing with the teams. They're changing the compounds, the constructions. They go back and forth. And the incredible thing is, they never really tell the teams what they're doing. They just come with all that information, put a tire together, and show up at that race. The very first race, Michael Andretti, Goodyear. They were dominant. Then Paul Tracy gets on a run where he wins 3 short ovals in a row. But Firestone came back. They won on the streets. They won on the road courses. They won on the ovals. And the incredible thing is they had a dominant run in the rain in Portland after they had a disastrous tire the year before. In my opinion, what really helped all season long was the consistency of the Firestone, the most poles and the most wins. And for the second year in a row, they won the tire war.
And with their success has come popularity. At least 2 teams have announced that they'll switch from Goodyear to Firestone rubber for 1998. The 1997 kart season produced a career-best second-place finish in the championship for Derek Walker and his team, remarkable considering the way the season began. In Homestead, Florida, driver Gilles de Ferran tangled with a slower car and crashed. In race 2 in Australia, de Ferran had a titanic collision with Christian Fittipaldi and was lucky to be able to re-enter the race with a backup car. De Ferran then took pole at Long Beach, but fell victim to another late race crash before they got their season turned around. Joining us now, Walker Racing team owner Derek Walker and driver Gilles de Ferran. Let me ask you both to assess your first year together. Your best performances, both for you, Gilles, as a driver, and you, Derek, as a team owner. How was the year?
You first. Well, you know, driver was a bit of a problem early on in the season until we got to know it was, seriously, it was a good season. I enjoyed it a lot. We had a lot to do coming back from last year. You know, we didn't do that well and had a lot of new things with Honda and Jill and the team dwelling together. So it was a good year, I thought. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful year as well, Bob. You know, we obviously didn't score as many points as we were hoping for earlier on in the season. But ever since, it was plain sailing, really. I think Derek did a really good thing actually last year by signing everything really early. So we had a good time to get ourselves prepared for the season. We hit the ground running in Miami, and it's been good ever since.
You matched Alex Zanardi top 5 for top 5. You led more races than anyone except the champion. You finished as runner-up. Is there any sense of regret of what might have been after the crashes put you so far behind after the first couple or 3 races of the year?
Well, in a way, yes, and in another way, no. I mean, I'm a very pragmatic guy, so I mean, what has happened, and there's nothing you can do to change it. I mean, little what happened in the beginning of the year, I felt was under my control or under the team's control, for that matter. And it's just, you know, the cards that we were dealt with, and I just kept my mind on the job, and that was that, really.
From the team's perspective, Derek, when you're working on the car after every race, I guess Long Beach is the real egregious example. Big crash with Salas in the practices, then crashing out of the race. That's a lot of work for the team. How do you keep the team on an even keel?
Well, that's where having an experienced team pays off, because when you've been in this business for a number of years, you realize there are a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and you've got to be able to carry your way through the lows. And full credit goes to the team. We never missed a beat. We had a lot of things to do in the early stages, and the momentum was really building early on, even though we had a lot of work to do. And it carried out through a whole season, and that's really what 97 for me is all about. I think the team really did an outstanding job, and we're very consistent through the whole year, and that's full credit to them, really.
Now let's look ahead to 1998. Any changes?
Well, we're definitely going to win some races, I think.
That's exactly right.
Jill assures me, and I've assured him we will. No, more of the same. I mean, we look at it, it's a 3-year contract. You know, we've got a 3-year term here with a number of pieces that we've got in place in our program, and this is really, 97 was the first year, 98 is a stronger year yet. So we just want to rub on it a little bit. No major changes. I think it's pretty well in place.
Well, congratulations on a great year to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Now let's go to Jan Beekes.
Bob, after great things for Andre Ribeiro in 1996, we expected to see more in 1997, but he was somewhat crippled by the Lola chassis, even though he did finish 6th in the second round in Australia. But the big moment for you, Andre, certainly was changing to the Reynard chassis in Cleveland, because at the second race, you were already up on the podium.
Yeah, this brought some hope to us. Of course, it was a disaster in the beginning of the year with the performance of the chassis. We had the team ready to go. We had good financial support from our sponsors, from LCI, and we had a fantastic technical side, very good engine with Honda, very good tires with Firestone, and unfortunately one element of this whole package put us on the back. On the middle of the season we had this opportunity to run with the rain and brought some hope, but of course we lost the distance between from the others who start testing so early on the season, and it was a little disappointment.
Now this guy of course is known for that famous pass at the end of '96, but you're with one of the best teams. Your thoughts on your '97 season?
Well, you know, it's always hard to review an entire season in a short period of time. You got to look at all the factors, but I think in a nutshell, I feel pretty good about the year. We qualified really well at a lot of races and had a fast car. Things didn't always go our way, and we didn't finish as high up in the points certainly as we wanted to. So that's something we need to improve on for next year, and try and keep the speed and the consistency and even bump that up a little bit too.
Well, Brian, you've proved you've got the speed, the talent, everything that it takes, but I know how frustrating it is to get that first win. Is that something that's eating at you, or do you feel a tremendous amount of pressure with that?
Well, yeah, only because you get asked that a lot. You know, when are you going to get that first win? And I think, you know, when Big Mo won his this year, and, you know, he said it best. One of the best things I think about winning your first race is people don't have to ask you anymore when that's going to happen. And, you know, there's pressure certainly from the outside, but from yourself too, because, you know, okay, it's great for people to say you're fast enough to win, or you've done this, you've done that, but until you actually do it, you know, it's all just a lot of talk.
Well, good luck to you for your 1998, and congratulations on a great season in '97. Thank you.
Thank you.
It would be hard to pick a key moment of the '97 season for Alex Zanardi. The '96 Rookie of the Year enraptured crowds with his signature Victory Donuts. He took the most pole positions, led the most laps, and won the most races, including his first on an oval at the US 500. Alex Zanardi was simply the man in 1997. He's standing by with Gary Gerould, car owner Chip Ganassi, and teammate Jimmy Vasser.
Bob, it's a pleasure to be able to sit here with a championship team once again, and for the second consecutive year, of course, Chip Ganassi is the man who has orchestrated a championship in such tough competition with his drivers, Jimmy Vasser, who won the title last year. Alex Zanardi, the championship is now yours. You've had an opportunity to think a little bit about what this '97 season has been like, and I'm wondering, when the season started back, 7 months ago, on the other side of the country, here in Miami, things didn't really go great for you in the first part of the season. Were you ever discouraged? Were you really concerned at any point?
No, there's no time for that. No, you have to do your best no matter what the situation is going to be, and if you're lucky enough, there is about 1 million things that can go wrong in racing, and 900,000 are controlled by luck and not by you. And if you're lucky enough to don't get any of these 900 reasons or things hitting you or getting into your way, and you have the talent and the skill like everybody at the top, Chip Ganassi has, then you may win. And then if it happens again, you may win the championship.
Well, certainly it began to happen at Long Beach, and then about in the middle of the season, I think in particular of Cleveland. You had the incident where you went to the back of the field, and then that dramatic run all the way up through in the wide open spaces of Burke Lakefront Airport.
Yeah.
That had to be, was that the key point of the season for you?
It looked like. I don't think it changed anything, because we were all pushing very hard since the beginning. Since then, we had things falling in places, but not because we were pushing any harder. I don't know, maybe, you know, every day you accumulate experience, and sure enough, the whole team was stronger at the end of the season, like I was, but every single mechanic, Chip as well. And you learn and you avoid to do little mistakes that sometimes may cost you a good results, but I do believe simply, we at the beginning of the season we had some misfortune. Most of them were not due to factor on our control. Was simply what it makes racing interesting. You know, the fact that it's unpredictable, and sometimes the fastest guy doesn't always win the race.
Well, with the victories then, and this great mid-season surge, came your signature now, the donuts after the checkered flag. Did that happen by accident? Did you have that planned? How did that evolve?
Well, actually, that's something that Nigel Mansell used to do, and he actually used to do that every single test when the day was over, just to have some fun. And in Long Beach, I did it just to find a way to celebrate, and then I saw the kind of enthusiasm I start into the fans, and I did it again in Cleveland. And probably it was very important for me that the perception it came out is that I wasn't doing that just to get attention, just to get exposure. I was just doing it because I was happy. I wanted to find a way to celebrate, and I'm happy that all the fans understood it that way, and they start to ask me, please Alex, do it again, please Alex, do it again, we like to see those donuts. And then when I had the opportunity again in Elkhart Lake, I did it.
Didn't want to let them down. There's a special bond, it seems to me, between our past champion, your teammate Jimmy Vasser, and yourself. Jimmy, it's unusual for teammates to like each other, but I definitely have gotten the feeling over the year that you guys are really good friends.
Yeah, we've become good friends, and working close together for 2 years now. I mean, from my standpoint, it's hard not to like a guy like Alex. He's very warm, very honest, and very giving, and it's just seems natural that we would be friends. And it's not just Alex and I. We have that kind of synergy running through our whole racing team, and Chip can attest to that. And maybe that's part of the reason why we've been two-time champions.
And certainly coming from your standpoint, these last few events of the season that have seen you with a resurgence, I know that's meant a lot to you because you've had more than your share of frustration over the course of this year.
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs come with motor racing, and it's been a nice surprise to get back on track. We buckled down and got down to the notes and tried to find out some of the reasons why we weren't having the success that Alex was having on the other side of the team, and we saw a few areas that we could try to make some changes, and fortunately, it helped out our side of the team in the last couple races, and I think with that momentum, we can carry it on into the off-season testing, and hopefully be a front runner next year and be a contender for the championship. Maybe I can get Alex to go for a best 2 out of 3.
A lot at stake. And I'm sure that, Chip, we don't want to ignore you. You would certainly endorse that. But a thing that kind of tugs at my mind, as a former driver, you had grand days in the cockpit when you had tremendous satisfaction. How does the satisfaction now of achieving back-to-back championships as an owner, as an organizer, as a manager, compare with the best days you had as a driver?
That's a good question, Gary, because I think this means much more to me because of so many people's lives we're touching now. When I was a driver, it was sort of all me, and it's much more satisfying now to have two great guys like I have pushing the pedals and touching their lives, touching the lives of the people at Target, touching the lives of the people at St. Jude's through that program. And so I think it's much more gratifying for me in this position to be able to bring something nice to all those different groups of people.
Is this a super team now in open wheel racing?
I don't know. Those are monikers that fans give teams. I think I remember a day at Monterey in 1996. We were a super team that day, and we were a super team at Cleveland this year, I think, and again in Monterey this year. I think that we were a super team that day. And that's for other people to say what they want to call us. But I sure, if I was giving out names and it was solely up to me, that's one I'd certainly have to consider.
Well, it's a pleasure for us to be able to sit in the company of champions, and we congratulate you guys on back-to-back tremendous seasons. And for you, Mr. Zanardi, a particular congratulations. Thank you. That moniker of champ is going to wear real well, I'm sure. It's been a pleasure to talk with these guys. Bob?
Here's a look at the final point standings for the 97 season. For Alex Zanardi, the championship clinched with a race to go in the 97 season. The final race of the season is our final key moment of the 97 campaign. On Friday, Patrick Carpentier crashed, putting the rookie points leader on the sidelines for the weekend. Also involved in Carpentier's accident, newly crowned series champion Alex Zanardi, whose weekend was over as well. The race itself began with a bang at the back of Juan Fangio's Reynard Toyota. Mauricio Gugelmin led away under green from the first 240-mile-an-hour pole in motor racing history. Turn 4 produced 2 more key accidents, Paul Tracy and then Arndt Meyer and Arie Luyendyk subbing for Zanardi. When Greg Moore lost an engine late in the race, Mark Blundell took advantage of the opportunity to pass Jimmy Vasser for his 3rd victory of the year. With that, the 1997 PPG Kart World Series season came to an end here at the California Speedway. Now it's time for all of our commentators to pontificate a little bit about the season past. I'll start things off by saying you always want to see the most deserving guy out there win the championship, and to me, that was Alex Zanardi. Despite the controversy at Vancouver, the fine and the suspended suspension, I should say, Zanardi was clearly the guy to win the championship this year. So I think the story ended the way it should.
Well, he certainly brought, I think, a welcome breath of flamboyance, a lot of charisma into this series, and I think we all, frankly, really enjoyed that. And I know that the drive that he made that I thought was key when he really started his surge at midseason, he got bumped to the back of the field in Cleveland, came back through there in the wide open spaces of Burke Lakefront Airport. That's going to be one of the big memories of 1997 for me personally. I just thought it was a scintillating drive.
I think also if you look at that fine and you're talking about what happened at Vancouver, Zanardi was doing what he did all season long. He was aggressive, he went for it, he was clearly the fastest almost every place that we went, and that's what got him to the points lead, that's what took him there. I think he shouldn't have changed. I don't agree with some of his passing tactics. I wouldn't have wanted to have been Brian Herta, but he did what he had to do at a place also like Vancouver where that's about the only way you can get by.
And I think technically he had the package, and at the beginning of the season we thought maybe he doesn't have the package. It looked like he might have to have a Swift, he might have to have Goodyear tires at the beginning of the season. Ford really came back strong, but it was the Honda engine, I think, that came on later in the season, and definitely Firestone, like you said earlier, Danny. I mean, Firestone could certainly be the topic, technically, of the season that made it that much easier for Zanardi.
And another of the stories has to be the competitiveness all season long, the parity, to use the cliche, up and down the pit lane. We saw that virtually any driver out there could win a race on any occasion. Even a couple of rookies, Carpentier and Franchitti, led races strongly at one point.
I think you go right through the field, and we have in this show talked with owners, with drivers, who've all said it is tougher now to win in this sport than it's ever been. And we got to see that on 17 different occasions all season long.
And look at some of the breakthroughs that we had with Greg Moore and the Pac West team that were winless to that point. Jerry Forsyth is an owner, and those guys, they hadn't been there. And here they go, and boom, they're in the winners column, and they did it in a very convincing fashion on more than one occasion. So, you know, you could say one time, well, he got better fuel mileage, but you couldn't say that overall because they came back and won it again in strong style.
Well, does that, I can't help but wonder, has the balance of power shifted in this sport from what we've seen in years gone by? Because it wasn't that many seasons ago, it was strictly the Penske team that dominated, flat dominated. Not the case now.
I think what's happened is there's a lot of good people out there, and I'm not just talking about drivers, I'm talking about team managers, chief mechanics. They've gained experience at Newman Haas and Penske, which were the strong ones, Pat Patrick from years ago. And what's happened is they've all come together. There's more sponsorship than we've seen in years past. Reynard has a very good chassis. Lola had one before. They're going to be back. And the engine parity that was out there as well with the Honda, now with Mercedes, Ford, Toyota's coming on strong. You know, having said all of that, there's a lot to choose from, and that kind of equalizes the playing field.
Well, now we begin a long off-season of testing. When do you suppose the 1998 scenario is going to begin to come into focus?
Well, we know it's not going to be the first race because in 1997 we thought we had it all figured out, that it was going to be the Swift, like we said. Penske looked good, certainly on the short tracks, on smooth ovals, but it wasn't until half season that we really saw what was going to happen. But I think what happens when you have this kind of parity that Danny was talking about, if somebody misses the mark by just a little bit, it was Lola this year, certainly it was Penske at a lot of racetracks, and certainly Toyota. If you're a little bit off where you need to be, I mean, you're just way out to lunch. So if they're going to try and have the parity, you know, come to the level and everybody have a chance, you've just got to have it right on.
And we have something that's going to be really tough next year. There's a 19 race schedule, and people are starting testing right here now, right after the race that just happened. They're already testing for 1998. So you have to have a strong budget, and you have to have consistency, and you have to be able to maintain all the way through that period. That's going to be tough.
Well, that's the story of the offseason. That story is about to unfold, and we'll be watching it closely. Here's a look at the 1998 kart schedule. 19 events in all. It all begins with testing. It's known as spring training, the first week of February on the newly reconfigured oval at Homestead, Florida. 2 new events include an oval at Motegi, Japan in March and a street circuit in Houston, Texas in October. Who will be driving for whom in 98 remains to be seen. Announcements are expected throughout the winter. We'll leave you with a tribute to our champion, Alex Zanardi. I'm Bob Varsha. Until next year, so long, everyone.